All right, so it's Wednesday night, January 10th, and actually tomorrow there is going to be a case that comes before the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of genocide. So this case was brought by South Africa against Israel and saying that Israel is right now committing genocide in Gaza and is calling for an immediate cessation of the fighting, the war that's gone on since October 7th until now, calling for an immediate cessation until this case can be investigated. So here's what you need to know about this. So the case has already been fast-tracked, and it's going to be in court Thursday and Friday of this week, so tomorrow and the day after. Tomorrow, South Africa will argue its case, and then on Friday, Israel will argue its side. So South Africa has traditionally, and also now during this particular war since October 7th, when Hamas invaded, Hamas terrorists broke through the barrier between Israel and Gaza. They came from Gaza, about a couple hundred or 1,000. I'm not sure of the exact number. I'm not sure if anybody is sure of the exact number. And during that time, about 1,200 people were killed. 250 were kidnapped. And there are still 130 something in captivity in Gaza. But when Israel responded in force and with a very aggressive aerial bombing campaign that wiped out large swaths of Gaza City and other cities, leaving 1 million people displaced, forcing them to go south and then back north, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, there are 23,000 Gazans who have been killed during this time. That number comes from Palestinian Ministry of Health. I don't know the breakdown of civilians and children versus how many were actually Hamas. But anyway, there's a lot of civilian deaths here. Whether it's 50% or more, there are still a lot of civilian deaths versus Hamas, particularly. But in any case, this this is what South Africa is basically alleging here. So. This case is going before the International Court of Justice in the Hague, not the ICC. And South Africa says in their lawsuit that they accuse Israel of intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population, civilian objects and buildings dedicated to religion, education, art, science, historic monuments, hospitals, and places where the sick and wounded are collected. Torture, the starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, and other crimes and crimes against humanity. So this is a huge case. And of course, Israel is party to the Genocide Convention. So Israel, this isn't something that Israel can ignore. Israel is planning to defend itself on Friday. Another interesting thing is who Israel chose to argue its own case. Now, they chose a former Chief Justice, Aaron Barak. Now, in recent months, he has been the poster of opposition to the judicial reform that Benjamin Netanyahu's government is trying to enact here in Israel, and he has been opposed to it very vocally. And so, for the Netanyahu government to go and get Barak, who is actually a Holocaust survivor himself, it's very telling. And not all of the current officials in the government agree with this decision, and some have said as much, that they don't agree and they're upset with it, whereas others said they don't agree, but whatever Netanyahu wants, he should do. So the Israeli reaction is, for instance, Israeli President Isaac Herzog said there's nothing more atrocious and preposterous that they would be accusing Israel of genocide, as opposed to, in the beginning, Israel was using the argument that Hamas was committing genocide against Israel by purposely targeting Israelis and Jews and coming across border. Now, of course, the Hamas charter is actually calls for the elimination of Israel. So you could argue that Hamas itself is genocidal. But this suit is talking about the Palestinian civilians, not Hamas in general. The arguments that South Africa is going to bring up are actually, in addition to the large number of deaths, the destruction, the humanitarian crisis going on. I'm sure they'll have that very detailed, but actually they're also going to be using some statements from Israeli legislators and decision makers themselves. And I'll just give you a few of them. For instance, Ravitali Gottlieb of the Likud. Is that actually Tali Gottlieb? This is probably Tali Gottlieb. I don't know why they use their full name here. She said, bring down buildings, bomb without distinction, stop with this impotence. You have ability. There is worldwide legitimacy. Flatten Gaza without mercy. So there's one. Also, some ministers have called for the voluntary emigration from Gaza. There was talk of relocating Gazans to the Congo. That might still be going on, actually. They're talking another one, Nissim Vaturi, who is also from Likud. Likud is Netanyahu's party. He said in a tweet, a return to Jewish settlement in the northern Gaza Strip is a correct and logical answer to the murderous terrorist attack by Hamas. The settlement will help restore security and fix the image of Israeli victory in the eyes of our enemy. In another, in the Knesset, the same one, Knesset member, Vittori, said, destroy Gaza. He also said, the war will never end if we don't expel them all. There's so much I'm actually looking through right now that's been collected on a website called Law for Palestine. A bunch of these quotes have been collected. Now, Israel, on the other hand, will probably argue that Hamas is still holding hostages, including a baby, at least 2 babies, unless they have been killed. Hamas claims that those 2 have been killed, but in any case, they did kidnap them, that they mass raped, tortured, and kidnapped women and children. That they could actually end the killings of Palestinians if they would just return the hostages and surrender. Also, they'll probably point to the use of hospitals, schools, mosques, and other civilian locations as military bases or weapon storage. So this is what's going on, and this is going to be happening on Thursday and Friday of this week. Now, the court so far has been very quick to respond. I mean, obviously, this is just 3 months old of a war, and the petition was placed, I think, in late December, and already there's a hearing. So if the court rules that at least there should be a temporary or there should be a pause to the war while they have a chance to investigate this case, the question is Israel obligated to then stop, and then who enforces it? So it looks like a little bit of the battlefield is moving to the legal arena in the next few days and weeks. So it's very good to keep an eye on this. Look for this in the news, that it's happening in the International Court of Justice, the ICJ in The Hague, on January 11th and 12th of 2024.